Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Marianne Shiozawa, and welcome back to the You're Doing Great Mom podcast. In this episode, I'm speaking to Rea Frey Holguin, who is a mother, a wife, a fitness and nutritional expert, and an author. She has written 4 nonfiction books and has just signed a 2-book deal with St. Martin's Press for her first fiction novel, which she says is a book that she could not have written without her inspiration from being a mother. Her story is great, and I loved meeting her for this episode, and I'm sure you'll love listening to it as well. I met her through a mutual friend of mine who was sure that we'd click, and he was totally right. We really did. I love it when I meet people and I think it's a small world, and one of the thrills of life is, for me, is connecting with people that you feel like you've known them for ages. And that's how I felt when I spoke to Rea. Hi, Rea.
Hello, it's nice to be here.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Me too.
So tell me a little bit about who you are, your current projects, and how many kids you have.
Sure. So currently I am a full-time writer. I freelance a lot for different magazines and business publications, and I also write books. And I have one daughter, her name's Sophie, and she'll be 5 in a couple of months. And right now I'm working on a really exciting project, finally writing some novels in the fiction world. I've been in nonfiction for the longest time and kind of made the switch over. So I have a book coming out next year, which I'm really excited about.
Cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How many books did you've read? You've written a few nonfiction books already.
I have, yeah. So I actually went to school for fiction writing and then ended up writing nonfiction. I don't really even know how that happened. I think I tried to marry my love of health and wellness with writing. So I ended up writing 4 nonfiction books that were published. And so I have those out there, but my love's always been with fiction. I mean, I've always just wanted to sit around writing novels and coming up with these stories. And so I'm finally at a place where I get to do that. And it's very exciting.
Cool. Did you write those books before you had Sophie?
So one was written before I had my daughter. And then I actually was on a deadline during pregnancy for a book called Power Vegan. And then when it came out, she was just turning 1, and we were also in the process of moving. So it was a really interesting time trying to do like press and media and moving and having a 1-year-old. And I was still kind of like, just in it 100% with being a brand new mom and not really knowing what I was doing. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So I've only had 1 book published when I wasn't a mom. So everything else has been just kind of in the throes of that young motherhood, which has been quite interesting.
Yeah. And we'll get into that for sure. So when did but you've been in the fitness and nutrition, you did that before writing?
So I've kind of always done them in tandem. I grew up as a writer. I mean, writing poems and journaling, and I always kind of thought of myself as a writer. I went to school for writing, started off as a journalism major and actually switched my major to fiction writing. But from a very young age, I got certified to teach group fitness classes when I turned 17. And then I became a personal trainer at 18 and worked my way through college. Have just always been in the health and wellness atmosphere, got certified in nutrition as well. So I kind of always tried to do them at the same time and look for opportunities where I could do both and write about both because I love them so equally.
Cool. Wow. And and how old are you now?
I'm 35.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
35.
And cool. Yeah, that's I had my first child at 32. So it's kind of like the same.
So it's interesting. I had her when I was 30, but I just think it's very different having children in your 30s versus, when you're young. I always joke that like having kids is like a 20-something thing. I just feel like your body and mind and energy are a little bit fresher in your 20s. But, but I think there's some benefits too for waiting a little bit longer.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, some women, I think I look at some women who had their babies, like 22, 23, or even like 24, and then their kids are independent, and before they're 40, you look at them and they're like
You're
quite
free.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking, which way is more,
Yeah, my parents got married when they were 18. They're still together. They've been together 40 years, so they're only 58, and they have my brother who will be 40, and then I'm 35, and I mean they look so young. They're still so in love, and they have had kids out of the house for years and years and years, and just have this whole second period of life. So it was really cool growing up with young parents, even though I thought 35 was like so old when I was a kid. And now I still feel like I'm 22 years old. So
yeah. That's really cool. Funny. That is cool. It must be cool to have parents that young,
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, it is.
Cool. So then, so tell me a little bit about how you, because, in our pre-chat, you were mentioning how you weren't really sure about becoming a mother.
Yeah, no, I did not want to become a mother. And I know that's a very bold statement to say, but I grew up, I will be completely honest. I'm pretty selfish with my time. And I just always knew that I wanted to be a little bit of a gypsy. I love, just the freedom that comes with being able to get up and go and just kind of not have that sort of awesome responsibility of another human and, all the worry that comes with it. There's so many amazing things, but obviously before kids, it's just a concept. And I would see my friends with kids, and just, I could never wrap my brain around the 24-hour a day responsibility. Like I couldn't bridge that gap between concept and reality. So I was in a long-term relationship, and kids never even came up in my 20s. And then when I met Alex, who's my husband, we started dating, and we knew immediately that this was it. We were going to be together. But I sat him down and I said very honestly that I did not want children. Children were not in my future. But if that's something he wanted, I really did not want to deny him that. And he was okay with it just being us.
Wow.
And so we had we've been married about 9 months, and I totally blame my iPhone iPeriod app for the reason that my daughter is here, because apparently I ovulated like 10 days late.
Oh my God. You gotta contact the app.
Seriously. And it was the only time we were not careful, literally the only time. And I really feel like my daughter just chose to be here. And, but it was such a shock because I was 100% freelance writing. He is a graphic designer, and at the time was freelancing. We were just living a very kind of fun, carefree life. And it really changed, everything for us. And we were very shocked. And again, I was excited, but I was also extremely stressed about the logistics of everything, because it's not something I'd ever thought about. So,
wow.
It was just
so okay. So when did you find out you were pregnant? Like, did you know immediately, or?
No, I didn't know immediately. We actually had a house guest who was getting married to someone, and she was moving to London, and she was staying with us. And I remember I was about 7 days late, but just didn't really think of any, didn't think much of it. Like sometimes, I could be a little bit off on my days, or if I was exercising very heavily.
Right. Were you really regular? Like just generally regular?
Yeah. My cycles have always been longer, more like 35 days. So yeah, I had gone on and off. I'd been off the pill for years. So since I'd been off, it was a little bit irregular from time to time. But I remember having some symptoms, like at the gym, I could not hit that level of intensity that I usually could. I was so tired. My boobs were so sore. And my girlfriend who was staying with us, she was like, dude, you are totally pregnant. I was like, there's no way. There's no way I'm pregnant. Like, no way. And I remember I actually had a personal training client at 6 a.m. and I had gone to the store to get a pregnancy test. And I actually took it at like 5 a.m. before I had to go train this client. And of course it was positive. And I just remember running into, my bedroom. My husband was still asleep and I was just like, it's fucking positive. The test is fucking positive. Like, what do I do? And I think I was only about 3 weeks along. So it was very early. And yeah, I mean, it was just a shock. And as you know, like, you don't go into the doctor's office immediately. There's not really much you do in the beginning except wait for your appointment and, take care of yourself and drink water. And, my biggest thing was like, I'm going to have to stop drinking coffee. Like, I was just all of these things. It was just such a shock.
Wow.
I didn't really know what to do.
Wow. So then you guys had this, you probably had a few conversations before.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we didn't have, again, neither one of us had W-2. We didn't have regular health insurance. I was very worried about that. We were both very healthy. We were both completely vegan at the time. He and I went through my pregnancy completely vegan, and she was vegan the first 3 years of her life, which helped in so many ways with having a healthy pregnancy. But, yeah, we had some big conversations if we should move out of the city because we didn't have any family members. He did end up getting like a normal 9-to-5 job as a graphic designer for an advertising firm. And we ended up moving. I mean, we really changed a lot of things, I think, because we thought that we had to. And I think we both panicked a little bit and like, oh shit, we're adults. Like we gotta figure this out, but it all ended up working out.
Yeah. Did you ever at any point, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but did you ever have any point thinking about terminating the pregnancy?
Yeah, no, I didn't have any thoughts about terminating the pregnancy, but I will totally admit, and I would not admit this. I mean, this is terrible because I feel horrible saying this with women who really want babies and can't have them. But I was so stressed in the beginning that I think I would have been okay had something natural happened to me, but now having had my daughter, I mean, I cannot imagine a world where she wasn't in it. But, when you're so overwhelmed and you've never thought about something and it presents itself, it's just, my mind just was all over the place in those early weeks.
That's totally honest. I mean, I think that women in a similar situation, that's just real feelings,
Sure.
Yeah.
And as you know, I mean, you've been around the health and wellness industry too. It's like so much about your body and so much about, being on your feet and these crazy schedules and mornings and nights. And I was really concerned about how that was going to shift everything, just day-to-day life, really. Again, we're all minor concerns pre-baby, because once you have a child, everything just kind of makes sense and you get on with it, and it's great and changes your life. But before that, you don't know because you've never done it.
Yeah, for sure. And did you enjoy your pregnancy? Like, was it?
Yeah. I actually the only thing I think I was a little bit nervous about it because I was an avid exerciser and just did some crazy stuff in the gym. So I think I backed off of things a little bit sooner than I probably could have. Just, I was very, nervous about it. I just had never felt my body experiencing these types of changes, but I had a very uneventful pregnancy. I never had any issues at all up until the delivery, which was unforgettable, and the reason that we only have one child because I was so traumatized by my delivery.
Really?
Yeah, it was one for the books, for sure.
Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, sure. So I am very, very holistic. I'm very holistic in everything that I do. I'm anti pretty much anything medical unless it's an emergency.
Right.
So we had completely prepared for natural birth. I had a doula, even though I actually was with a set of doctors in Chicago for the delivery. So I had, of course, first time parent. Like I had this massive birth plan and everything that I want to do. And to make a long story short, I went into labor. My labor ended up being 52 hours.
Oh my God.
And I stayed at home for close to 40 of it. But I was having the most intense contractions, about 2 minutes apart. But it stayed that way for over a day. And I just was like, why am I not progressing? I was handling the pain fine, but I went into my doctor and I was 6 centimeters dilated. And she was like, why don't you just walk over to the delivery department, get them to break your water, and you'll have this baby in an hour. Otherwise you're going to be exhausted. I mean, you're going to just be utterly exhausted. And, so I tried to get my water to break naturally. I was exercising, I was dancing, I was moving, I was doing everything I could and just couldn't get the water to break. So doctor broke the water. And when he did, her head turned transverse and started banging into my pelvis, which I know a lot of women have experienced that. And I have had a high threshold of pain, but it was the most intense pain I'd ever felt. And it was causing me to have contractions that were unbelievably long with about 3 seconds between them. And I was just like shuddering. I didn't know what to do. And the doctor basically gave me 3 options: that I could get a narcotic to try to, relax me, and they try to massage the head, but that would pass to the baby. I could get an epidural and they try to do the same thing, or go to a C-section. And I should preface this by saying that I had brain surgery when I was 19. And ever since then, my pain receptors are kind of off. So medicine does not work on me. Like I don't get numb at the dentist. Like anything I take, it just doesn't work right. So I was horrified of the possibility of a C-section, and I really wanted to have the baby naturally. So I was so upset, and I decided to get an epidural, and the epidural didn't work.
Oh no.
So again, very long story short, midwife came in, finally was able to get her head positioned correctly. And this was, 1 o'clock in the morning. By this point, I was exhausted. I had been going at this for over 2 days, and it took me like 2.5 hours to try to push her out of my body because I was so exhausted. And when she was finally delivered, she was blue, she was not crying, and I was horrified that, we'd just gone through all of this, but she ended up being perfectly fine. I really had wanted to have her put on my chest and have this like wonderful bonding experience. And of course that didn't happen. But I will say, when she was born, I think I was so exhausted that it took me a minute to feel that connection with her. I mean, because they took her away immediately, and I was so disconnected from what was going on.
Sure.
And just so tired that it just wasn't exactly what I what I had envisioned. And I know a lot of women's deliveries aren't, but I remember the doctor saying, "Oh, your next one, this is such a fluke thing. Like your next one would not be like this. You'd pop that baby out in 15 minutes." And, even then I was like, there will be no next time. This is not happening. But again, she was perfectly healthy. Everything was fine. And, from that day on, everything was different.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And, this is, it sounds like it's not, unlike so many other women's experiences,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But that's like heroic, to go that long and to actually go through a vaginal birth.
Which was such an amazing experience. I would really love the whole, water birth, just very peaceful, coming into the world. I'm really sad that I didn't get to have that, but I think it's a lot of first-time moms. We focus so much on how the baby's going to get here instead of just, let's get the baby here and, everybody's safe and happy. And, I don't think it's so much about the how as just getting your child here safely.
Yeah. And, Yeah, it's completely, it's understanding that from your experience, it's taken you so much time, or your decision to just have her. It's understandable. I mean, it's overwhelming. It's all encompassing in, this experience in our bodies and our emotions. Birth is, I can just say from my birth experience being pretty awesome, and the progression of it was great. I will remember each one of my births so clearly, and it ever changes you. So yeah, it's so understandable for women who, for every type of birth, to it's traumatic in any way, So
Sure.
yeah. And the whole bonding thing afterwards, that's a huge thing. I think that a lot of women that I've spoken to, just friends and in the past, a lot of women say, it took me a few hours or even a few days or a few weeks to feel this bond, this connection.
Well, it's a brand new, while I was pregnant, it was just, oh my God, I talked to her every day, and,
right.
You do feel so connected, but I mean, it's a new relationship. It's someone new coming into your lives, or your life if you're just on your own. And I mean, I think sometimes that takes a while. And with, whether there's a man or a woman in your life, going through this experience with you, it just takes time.
Yeah, exactly.
To bond and to really get to know, who this little human is, and how they fit into your world.
Mm-hmm. Is she like you? Is her person?
Oh my God. I mean, my mom, it was sorry. She was like, you are so going to get paid back if you have a girl. And boy, she is the sharpest, funniest, just most amazing little girl. But, I was very defiant and very stubborn and very strong-willed, and she is all of that, times 100. She's just so smart, and has never really seemed very babyish. I mean, she's just been always incredibly independent, and one thing I'm even discovering now, and she's not even 5, that I'm really grappling with, and my husband and I talk about a lot. Because we don't have regrets that we only have one, but I kind of wish, when she was 2, we just would have done it again. You're like so in it, when they're little, and it's just like, and just like, let's do this so she can have a sibling. Because it does make me sad. We both have small families, and, I would love for her to have someone, but this whole idea that, we really lose our children while we still have them. Like this version of Sophie right now, who's just so sweet and wants my time and wants my husband's time and wants us to curl up in bed and read a million stories, and, is just so sweet in every way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's going to be replaced by more and more and more independent versions of herself. And, we can't ever get this exact version back. And that's something I'm really grappling with, when I see pictures of her as a baby and a toddler, and it's, you tell yourself in those moments, you'll never forget this moment, or the way they smelled, or the way they looked, or just something they did. And it's just, I mean, it's so cliche to say, but like how fast it really does go. But I'm kind of mourning, losing versions of her as we're progressing. It's wild.
Yeah.
Witness to that.
It is. It does. I know it is. So you're right. It's so cliche, but it does does go by fast.
So fast.
Yeah.
I mean, so fast. And I envy like you. I mean, you have 3, and just the chaos and the loudness and having this big family. And my parents watched my daughter actually this past weekend for a couple of days, and my husband and I were, we made dinner. It was so quiet, and we were looking at each other, and we're like, we are fucking bored. Like I'm so bored. Like we would be so bored if we did not have her. Like parents crave that aloneness and that time. But I just couldn't believe it was the first time where we were just kind of bored. just having the quiet and the peace and
Yeah,
you know,
it's a huge contrast.
it is a
Yeah.
huge contrast.
Yeah, for sure.
Even with one, which is not that big of a deal compared to people who have multiple children, but
Yeah, I mean, like my husband and I, it's because our kids are a little bit older, and she's about to turn 11, and my youngest is
wow.
5.5, and
Awesome.
it's quite the zoo when we're
Mm-hmm.
all home, and when like shit gets down and somebody's screaming and somebody's
Oh God.
like,
Yeah.
she did this and he did that, and just before I came over here to get on this call with you, it was just like mayhem.
Chaos. Yeah.
Total
No,
chaos.
absolutely.
And yeah, and so it's like my husband's like, it's your fault, you're the one who wanted him, or like he'll be like, how many more years do we have of this? 25?
No, I mean, forever. I mean, I don't think it ever really,
Right.
ends. But my husband and I talk about this a lot too. It's just, we've found a little bit of a struggle in like our relationship as parents, and then our relationship as romantic partners, and our relationship as friends. I don't feel like romantic relationships and parenting go very well together.
Yeah,
and it's been a real navigating process. Just to figure out how to still really give that time to each other. That's not all about logistics and, taking turns with her and, what we're having for dinner and all of that. And I think that's why I've kind of stuck to my guns with having one, is like, I do want my career and I do want my husband and I do want my daughter, but I'm spread so thin now. It's like, I marvel at people who have the energy and attention to just keep giving and giving and giving. And maybe it's because I'm a selfish bitch. I don't know. It's like, how do you do that? I mean, how do you do that and do it where you don't feel like you're so drained or feeling insane? I don't
That's
get
so
it.
huge. That is so huge. I'm so glad that you brought this up. It's such a huge aspect, a huge part of a mother's everyday life.
Yeah, everyday life.
Yeah. When you're in a relationship, whether you're married or this partner, and it's huge. It's an everyday challenge. You know what I mean?
Everyday challenge.
Yeah. And in my view, my theory is that for men, for men who become fathers, when you're in a relationship, there is, I know, an enormous shift, just like there's an enormous shift in our lives.
Sure.
But the bottom line is, my view is that things don't change as much for them. It changes a lot, but it's not as much, and it's also different. Very, very different. Just as men and women we're very different from each other. And as our children get older, I find that the interesting thing is that I find that like you were mentioning, it relates to, I don't want them to grow up. Right? I want them to stay little.
Yes. Yes.
My 5.5-year-old, like I'm quite tall. I'm tall.
Yeah.
I'm kind of tall. My husband's like 6'2", and so my kids are pretty big. And my 5.5-year-old, like I can barely, like I can pick her up still, but she's just like lead. She's like heavy lead. It's just they get so heavy, and
they do.
She's my youngest, so I'm just like, oh my God, like I just don't want her, right? You just don't want them to grow up.
Yeah.
So
no, you don't. I just want to bottle. Well, my daughter actually informed me the other day that she's not ever going to die, and that she has these special powers, and she's here to protect everybody. And then she said, "You'll see." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's not creepy. Like, what is going on?"
So sweet, so sweet. And yet my husband really just gets so much out of their growing up. Every week, every month, there's so much growth that happens, and there's so much more interaction that he can have with them.
Sure.
On more levels. And so I think in that sense, it's the experiences are very different. And I don't know where I was going with this, but like basically the experiences are very different, and I'm holding on a lot to my motherhood or my parenthood differently than the way he is enjoying it and experiencing it. And so,
Absolutely.
right. Yeah. And so it's like, the as they get older, like, what am I trying to say? It's kind of like this, as they get older, my relationship with him shifts and blossoms in interesting ways, because my relationship with him, like my marriage with him, is a constant. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes. Yep.
you know, like we're married, right? We're husband and wife.
Right.
And so there is definitely a very important, essential part of constantly creating a passionate marriage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I feel like in all aspects of being a mother and a wife, there's a lot of effort that has to go into it, but it's different. Like, I'll always be their mother, you know, and my natural instincts are like pretty easy. Like they just come to me. Right.
Sure.
But I have to say, I don't know if you can agree with this, as a wife, you know, they're, like you're saying, it's separate. It's two different entities.
Separate.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I feel that for women, we have this, and I see this a lot in my, you probably see this too, like in my, my community, I feel like there's a lot of mothers, women, that we're always battling this separation in terms of dealing with like life as a mother, and like just having all these little babies, like kids crawling on top of this, mommy, you know, and then and then the husband gets home, and then having to like be a wife to that man. It's just, it's a daily battle, and
it is. Yeah.
So,
because I feel like women are defined sometimes by motherhood. Like, you are a mother, but men aren't necessarily, they're not defined by being a father. And I joke a lot because I joke all the time that my husband is more like sensitive and worried about like getting chores done and the laundry and the dishes and stuff. And I'm like, let's go have sex, like put the laundry down and let's go do this right now. Like, our roles are kind of reversed sometimes, but I mean, that actually happened one time where he was doing laundry and I was like, let's go right now. And he's like, well, I need to get done folding this first. And I'm like, oh my God, no, like, this is important. This is just as important. And I actually feel like my husband gets bogged down so much by the day to day instead of just finding those opportunities to just, who cares? Like, leave the dishes. Let's just, you know, we are still us. And I think it's finding, you know, that person pre-parenthood, and remembering who you are as that person and who he is as that person is sometimes a little bit of a struggle when you're doing so many things, or you're leading separate lives, or you know, I work from home, so it's, you know, I don't get that separation a lot. Like, he goes to an office, he has that group, he does jujitsu 5 days a week, he has that group, he coaches rugby, he has that group. So it's I don't know, it's just a very different experience, I think.
Yeah, and I think men are, you know, the task driven, and they don't, and it's like they tend not to see like the, you know, the opportunity, like you're saying, like, here's an opportunity to have sex, like
urgency,
like to create the relationship, to create it's all about, I think that women, we just naturally have this tendency to create. And we're creating relationships, and not only that, we're maintaining it and creating harmony within those relationships. And we have that natural sense. It's just the aspect of femininity. And so, you know, when you saw that opportunity, it was just like, it's there. It's like, come on, husband. Like, okay, drop what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. That's totally great to acknowledge that, you know.
And just, you know, and I mean, I don't know, getting into, you know, how you even look at yourself, like just, you know, discussing sex or just the way that you are post baby as well, is also very interesting in the way that you look at yourself and view yourself in that kind of physical relationship. You know, I breastfed my daughter for 3 years, and
awesome.
I mean, I still don't want my husband. I'm like, get away from these things. I don't ever want to touch ever again. Like, leave him alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, just the way that it changes your relationship, just to yourself, to your husband, to other people. It's been so great for me in terms of being social. I'm a natural introvert. I mean, I think that kind of comes with the territory with being a writer, but you know, when I had my daughter, I cannot, I mean, I know a lot of women say this, but it is so important to have that community of women who are going through the exact milestones you are. But it's hard too. Like, you know, it's kind of like you're like dating these mothers. Like, just because somebody has a kid doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be best friends with them. So like finding those right connections, is really important, but it's totally changed my social landscape and community. And I feel so lucky and so grateful having had my daughter, like, to bring that element into our lives. It's been really awesome.
Yeah. I'm like smiling because it's, you said the word dating other mothers.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
It's so true. It's so true.
It's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that usage of, because we us women, we just, you know, it's so, to me, I feel like it's so cathartic to be able to just, you know, just get real, you know, and and just shoot the shit. And like, I have a few women, a handful of women that I feel that if I just kind of tell them, like, you know, stuff that to some people might be like TMI, but you know, it's like
no such thing.
Yeah, no such thing. Yeah, thank you. It's real. It's real stuff, and it's funny because we find humor in these real life things, you know. So
oh my God, yes.
It's so nice to be able to share that with other women, and I think we really need that.
We do. Like, my girlfriend, one of my best girlfriends, she got me this really amazing set of vagina weights for Christmas.
Oh, nice.
We were joking about just how sad that is since having children, that it's just, you know, not what it used to be. But like, I mean, I don't know. It's just fun. It's just
Is it
fun
the jade,
Yes. Yep. Like when my daughter recently came out with, she had gotten into the box and she had all of them like dangling from her fingers. And she's like, what are these? What are these? Please put them away.
That's awesome. Yeah. I is it Kim? I mean, I know there's like a lot of different places you could buy from. There's this woman, I think her name is Kim Amani or something like that. Or Kim.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where she got these. I think she got them online, but
there's this woman, I think it's kimamani.com or something, and she has these pictures of her with these like weights hanging. It's so, she's doing like a yoga pose, like warrior.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine.
It's really cool. And I'm thinking, oh my God. But the interesting thing, and it's funny because I've been into fitness all my life too, and just being a chiropractor, you know.
Yeah.
She really explained it beautifully, because Kegels, they, you know how you are told.
Yeah. Yep.
You have to do your Kegels during your pregnancy and afterwards and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? It's like your vagina, they are a set of muscles.
Yep.
Same as your uterus. And so when you just imagine flexing your bicep, and you're flexing your bicep, but guess what? It's not going to get stronger just from you flexing your bicep without having any weight on it.
Right. Exactly.
So, right. So if you're like squeezing just doing this with your arm, like a hinge, just like I'm doing right now, it's not going to get stronger. It's okay. You know, it's good that you're moving it, but it's not going to get stronger. And so she was saying how, just like any muscle, you need to put some weight on it and exercise it, and then increase the weight. And use that weight to exercise it and to do what it's meant to do. So I just thought, I mean, I just never looked at it that way. I thought, wow.
Right? I mean, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, totally.
What we do with other muscles in our bodies.
Yeah, for sure. You know, so, and I think it's fantastic. I actually have been meaning to get one, you know, just to like, test it out.
Are all different sets of weights. Like, I think there are 8 of them. I mean, the heaviest one is heavy. And
is it really?
Like, yeah, 3 or 4 of my girlfriends, we have them, and I'm like, we all need to like go on this journey together and just, you know, see how it goes.
Yeah. It's so cool. And I think that, I mean, it makes sense. You know, if your vagina is going to be stronger, it's going to change. Hello, everything.
Everything. Yes.
And, you know, by the way, like, let's just get specific. I think that, I mean, one of the things about Mama Gina's School of Womanly Arts and Regina Thomas-Schauer, she's the one who teaches the school. She's the one who created it. And, that's how I met, Damon, who is the person who linked you and me together. So, learning from her classes and her philosophy, most women don't understand that the vagina is actually the birth canal. It's inside the body.
Right.
And we just use that kind of as a blanket name to name everything down there. Just all our bits. Exactly. Whereas it's not the vagina, like the vulva, the lips, the labia, that's not the vagina. That's the vulva. I mean, you know, technically, those are the technical terms. And that's just really important to have that distinction, because I think that not many people understand that, especially men. Men have, like, they don't really know.
No idea. Yeah, right.
So, but it's really interesting how, like, I don't know, why did the word vagina get like termed?
I have no idea.
So yeah. Anyway, just wanted to get technical there.
Yes, no, it's very important.
So tell me about it's fascinating because I love writing as well. And I mean, I have my blog, and I think that's just writing takes concentration and, well, time, first of all, and concentration and an idea and a story and a passion to whether you're writing nonfiction, which is what you did. And if you just talk about how did you incorporate that with because you said that you wrote one book before you had your daughter, and then you wrote another 3. And then so tell me about that your career.
Yeah. So, and it's shifted, finally, but, so again, I've always known that I'm not the normal 9 to 5, person. I really like kind of getting my hands dirty in all facets of writing. I mean, I've done journalism, I've done ghostwriting, blogging, you know, just kind of run the gamut, really. So with a child, I mean, I found it, just the process of writing. Luckily, I've always been a very fast writer. I'm actually more of a morning writer, as well, not up late with like my Jameson, you know, like writing into the wee hours of the night. But with a baby, it was actually pretty easy just because they sleep so much, and I'm very deadline driven as well. So if I had a deadline, you know, that was pretty easy. I actually found it a little bit more difficult as she got older, and, you know, once they become mobile, it's like, oh God, I mean, you can't do, when they first become mobile, it's like, you can't turn around for a second. So that's actually when we decided to move to Nashville. The pace of city life in Chicago was a little bit overwhelming. We both had so much going on. The city was so expensive, and I just wanted that space to be able to create and, kind of slow it down a little bit. And so again, I was in the nonfiction world, but as is with a lot of writers, even when you get paid decently, you know, sometimes it's hard to make a very like good living, just being a freelancer. You kind of constantly feel like you're unemployed. And when we moved to Nashville, I just was at this place where, you know, I was kind of tired of struggling, and my husband, again, who's a brilliant graphic designer, he was having problems like finding really good work here. And so I had an opportunity to take on a corporate America gig, I guess you could say, a contract for a year with a company based in Dallas. It's the best money I've ever made in my life. So it really changed our lives and gave us a little bit of freedom. But it was kind of my first foray into corporate America. I was also the co-owner of a gym at the time. And then I took on a senior editorial gig with a Chicago publication. So this was last year. I was working 3 jobs, and I was not being a good wife. I was being a very impatient mother. I just, like, yes, financially it was great, but I just wasn't present at all for my family. So I had kind of been toying around with this idea of writing a book. And, you know, I kept reading all of these nonfiction books, like about, like, you know, really getting to that place where you're doing exactly what you want. You're living on purpose. I constantly sought that sort of feeling, like getting up every day so excited to do what you're meant to be doing. And I just was not in that place. I was traveling for my corporate gig 2 times a month. I was gone in the mornings when my daughter went to school. I was gone at night for dinner because I was teaching classes, and chained to my computer, like literally chained. So I made a decision on, I had this idea for a book. On one of my business travels, I actually witnessed something that became the whole premise for my novel, The Lonely Girls. And when I got back from that trip, I told Alex, my husband, that I was quitting everything and going to write this book. And so I quit the gym, which was so hard because I love that community. I quit the senior editorial gig, and my husband literally a few days later got offered a senior UX designer position for a global company for a job he did not even apply to. It was just someone he had met who remembered him. So that happened. And then I had 2 months left on my corporate contract where I was still getting paid. And I gave myself an impossible goal of writing this book in 2 months. And I wrote it in 4 weeks. And it was the first time in my life, like, I did not doubt myself. I said, you know, I'm getting an agent. I'm getting the book deal. I know that this is supposed to be my new life. And I believed in it 100%. And I got a great agent. We took a month to kind of edit the novel, and then she sent it out to some really heavy hitter editors. And I would practice, like, her calling me with the news of a book deal. And when I was driving in my car, I would, you know, like, shriek with excitement, just pretending that it had already happened, and kind of putting into play all of these things that I've read in books, you know, like Acting as If, and, you know, The Secret, and all of these things that I wanted to believe in, but I'd never really applied it and done the work for my personal life. And when the call came, that the book, you know, it got an offer, then it got another offer, then it got a counter offer, and then another counter offer. And then it went to what's called a book auction. And it was also surreal. It was the most exciting thing ever. And I had written before I got my book deal that Rea Frey earned a 2-book deal with the esteemed, you know, St. Martin's Press. And I got the exact thing that I wanted. I got the 2-book deal with St. Martin's Press, which is one of the top 5 publishers in the country. And it's all been so surreal, but I feel like every single thing in my writing career up to this point has prepared me for this. I mean, it's going to be a new world, like rebranding yourself, or rebranding myself as a novelist versus, you know, in this nonfiction realm. But, you know, there's so much work that comes into it. Like, I think people think like, oh, you land like a 5 or 6 figure book deal and like, you're good, you know, you're good to go. And it's not like that. I mean, the way that advances are paid is very spread out. And as a writer these days, I mean, you have to be a marketing pro, you have to be a salesperson, you have to be a social media guru, you have to put in the work to really, like, bolster those sales. And, you know, the book won't even come out until probably next May is when we're looking to do it. But it's been the most gratifying change in my entire life, and for my daughter to experience this with me and to show that, like, no, you really can do what you want. And you just have to I mean, again, that sounds so cliche, and
not at all. No, not at all.
Yeah. I mean, if you really do believe yourself, because, I didn't touch fiction for 10 years, and I did have those thoughts and being like, who the fuck am I that I think that I can write a book in a month and it's not going to be total garbage. And, to be a real writer, like, you have to toil away for years and years and years. And I think that there is more than one way of doing things. And, you have to not listen to those like negative voices and the seeds of doubt and just go for it 100%. And I think we learn so much from our failures, and oftentimes more than we learn from even getting what we want. But, the fact that this like will start that legacy for my child and, really show her, that you don't have to live any certain way. And I don't know about you, but like, I grew up with parents who did what they had to do and, worked the jobs they necessarily didn't want to work. And we're always worried about like, you have to have health insurance, and you have to have, the W-2 salary, and, you have to have this security blanket. And children, I do think it's important, but I think we live in a time that, I mean, we really can do anything. I feel like going after your dreams and becoming an entrepreneur is the norm now. It's not the exception.
Right.
And it's just been a very exciting time amidst all the, political garbage that's going on. Like, I better not do away with like books and art and all of that all together.
Oh, God.
Have a protect.
I'm not going to hold my breath.
No, God. It's just, we can't even get into that. I will just, I will literally combust. And I live in Tennessee, which is predominantly a red state. I've been very, very lucky to have so many open-minded thinkers around, but I mean, there are parts of it that are pretty ugly.
It's pretty ugly. It's pretty ugly. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's pretty, well, I mean, we don't have to get into it, but, I mean, it's just, the bottom line is it's pretty scary.
It is. It's just.
They're here in Europe.
God, in Europe especially.
Like, for sure.
All kinds of things going on. It's crazy.
I don't even know. Like, I can't even wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
And I'm not even, like, you are there, so I don't even, I mean, I mean, we could talk about this like off.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Off the record, but like, but yeah, going back to what you said, it's like, it's really awesome how I love that you said how your, just the drive that you had and just telling your daughter, this is, you can have these things, you can dream big and you can accomplish it. And I think that's just, it's so inspiring to hear you say how it just came to you and you knew that your corporate gig was not fulfilling and it was in some way draining your energy. Like it was just not, I can hear that. And then it came to you and it's like your heart exploded in terms of like, oh my God, like this is what I'm going to do. And to hear you say that you didn't have any doubt, like for the first time in your life, this is you were so crystal clear, right? So crystal clear. Yeah. That's so huge.
I would not have written this story if I hadn't become a mother as well, because the story is about, and the thing that I witnessed, which kind of became the premise, was it's about this little 5-year-old girl who gets kidnapped from her mother in hopes of saving her. It's kind of a reverse kidnapping story. This very successful woman sees a child being verbally and physically mistreated by her mother, and in a chance run-in with the little girl a few months later, she makes a rash decision and decides to snatch her in hopes of saving her from her biological mother. And because I think as parents, we've all been there. Like we've been out and about and seen parents, either like spanking or scolding their children. And it's such a fine line between like, oh, is that parent having just a really shitty day? Or is this just like a really shitty parent? I mean, and but as I got into these characters, I mean, I have been the bad parent. I mean, I've said things that I never thought I would say to my daughter and I had horrific days. And I I wanted to explore these bonds that we have with our mothers, even when they hurt or betray us, and the loyalties that we feel to them and for them. And it was just so fun to explore motherhood and it's all its beauty and its darkness. And so yeah, this is a book that I never would have even thought about writing, and I couldn't have written without being a mother and being in it and seeing all kind of the good and the bad and just everything that goes along with it.
Yeah, that was my next question. Like, would you have been able to write this if you didn't have Sophie? Like that,
No
yeah,
way.
that's so,
No.
yeah, that's it. You know, it makes sense. You know, it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I have a creative writing degree, and I think, I would like start and stop things over the years, but I really don't think I had the story to tell. And I wasn't ready for it. Like here at 35, like I feel like I can handle everything that's going to come along with it. My daughter's at an age now where I'm not, we're not just like so exhausted and, up all night. And, she's so much more independent and is in school. And I just think we're at a really good place where the timing makes sense. And, again, the whole motherhood experience really prepared me to write this very book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's definitely a lesson in that, in terms of, because when you have little babies or there's some mothers I know that have like 3 kids under the age of 5, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
And, oh my God, martyrs.
And, it's not uncommon to have like, my sister-in-law had, when she had her kids, that at one point she had the 3, excuse me. She had the 3 of them. And they were all under age 5, which is like insanity, like, mine were, when I had, my third, Sophia was, my first is Sophia.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Sophia was 5.5. So it's like almost like that. But when they're so little and you're in like the thick of it, you're just like
tunnel vision.
Oh, huge tunnel vision. Like that's like for miles. And then, I was just talking to somebody who was just really, really, fearful, scared, because she's pregnant with her second, and she was just really fearful, and I just had to like tell her, listen, you can do this, you've got this.
Absolutely.
Because they don't stay
No.
They don't stay like that, unfortunately. We like them to sometimes, but
you do, but when you're in a tough phase, you think that it's going to last forever, and this is your life forever. And it's like, in hindsight, it's like, wow, that really is such a blip. I mean, it does go so fast. And, I think I was so dramatic about certain periods of time. And Sophie was actually an amazing baby and toddler. She was just all over the place, but, we've been very lucky. It's only, in the past, I'd say year where she's just gotten very defiant and, which I think is, we think that we know best for children. And I think they are really born with this innate ability, like to know who they are and what they want and what feels right to them. And, I already see her in school and the things that she believes that people say and takes quite literally. And, I'm mourning that for her, like when she does start to get influenced by society and what society deems right and wrong. And, I want her to believe what she believes. Like, why can't you fly? Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? Like you really can, do anything. And I think that, it's a struggle to have them be so independent and these free thinkers and not like taint them with what we've, necessarily come to believe is true.
Yeah. So. That's definitely, it's so true. It's so, I think all parents, well, not all parents actually think that way though. You know what I mean? Like what you just said.
Yeah, no, sure.
Yeah. But we want the best for our kids overall. Like that's the bottom line,
of course. I learned more from her, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like when I just like really listen to her, I'm like, oh my God, I'd much rather think like that and be, and just waking up. She wakes up every day and she is so excited for whatever is coming her way. And I mean, think about the way we get up. I mean, my husband, oh my God, I joke all the time. Like it's like his eyes are broken. It's like, oh shit, okay, we got to make lunches and coffee. And, we kind of stumble into the day instead of being excited that we're here. And like we get into these routines and it's a hard balance. I mean, I think it's a tough balance.
Yeah. And we do learn so much from our kids. The way they look at the world and like their lack of concept of time, that sort of thing,
That's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, because we're the ones that have kind of boxed ourselves into this whole concept of time. And I love the way that they look at it, and it doesn't even factor into their minds or their days.
Yeah, totally. And they're so in the moment,
So in the moment.
So in the moment.
And I struggle with that. Like I have guilt too, because it's like, yes, writing is so amazing, but I am in front of a computer, and every time my daughter asks me, like if she's here and I'm like on a deadline or in the thick of something, and she's like, Mama, will you come color with me? Will you come play with me? Will you come dance with me? And, I hate all the times that, excuse me, that I've said like, oh, hold on a minute, instead of just like doing it, right in that time, because I won't always be able to do that with her or play with her. She's not always going to want me to play with her.
Yeah. I know. I feel, oh God, I think I do that like every single day.
Oh yeah. No, I'm like, okay, hold on.
Yeah. Just give me a second. Hold on. And then it's like, It's, and I mean, you can't always drop everything on a whim to do it, but it's such a fleeting period of time where she's going to want that like time and attention, that I'm really trying to work on that, to just, let's go color. Let's go dance. Let's go outside and play instead of just sitting hunched, my back's all, it's like, I need a chiropractor every day. Don't we all? But, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So I just, so that whoever's listening, why don't you, you have a website?
Yes, I'm kind of currently in the process of rebranding it and building an email list and subscribing to the blog and everything. But it's just reafrey.com, REAFREY.com. And that's kind of where everything will be. I'm going to kind of chronicle this journey to being published over the next year, and gonna hopefully have a lot of fun in the process.
Great. That's awesome. And then I'll have on my website, just I'll link it onto my website, which is yourdoinggreatmom.com.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we'll be able to get your book. So you said it's going to be in 2018, next year?
Yeah, 2018.
Okay.
So anytime you, like go through regular publishing channels, it's always like a year before the book comes out, because they have to, there's just so much that goes into it, with, marketing, promotion, publicity, editing, everything like that. So it's a very long process, but yeah. But
it's happening.
It's happening.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's just really inspiring. And I love your story, and I love what you're doing. And it just sounds like, it's like things are just exploding now, for you. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that it's I know that this sounds cliche, but I know that a lot of women can't relate to that sort of thing, but I tell people, it's within us, it is possible. It's like, you hear the person say, oh, if I could do it, anybody can do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's just like, just because, you have this, and some listeners will be like, well, I don't know, I can't, who knows where you're at? We're always at some point, but you can do it.
You absolutely can. Even through this process, I've talked to so many people who have an idea for a book, and they're like, I'm not a writer. Like, I don't know where to start
Totally.
and I'm like, no, do it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I want to write about over this next year. Like, how to write a book, how to get an agent, how to pitch, how to do all of these things, because it absolutely is possible and people are doing it every day. I mean, walk into a bookstore, look how many books are published, or if your passion's in music or art or something completely non-creative, like, it's just about getting clear and focused. And I think that is the biggest takeaway for me, is that I was trying to do a little bit of everything. And it wasn't until I said no, which is always hard to do, and completely cleared out my life and focused 100% on this one thing, which was very hard to do with everything else, like day-to-day life. But it made all of the difference. It really did. It's just that I finally got focused.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're a mother, and most of your actions were inspired by her.
Oh, I mean, again, without her, she is the reason for all of it. And I mean, I cannot, when I think back to, not wanting kids and all of that, like, it's just, I cannot imagine a world where she's not in it. It's very hard for me to even remember, what that was like before her.
That really is amazing. I mean, it is amazing.
It is. It's crazy. And she's just enriched our lives in every way.
Yeah, that's so cool. Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure your husband can say the same thing.
Oh, God.
She must be like the apple of his eye,
yes, she is. I mean, she's a little he's destined to be like surrounded by estrogen, but it's all good.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome.
It's fun. It's fun. It's good. It's good for a guy,
It is.
But it's also good. Like, it sounds like he's got like a good dose of. You said he does jujitsu? Jesus. He does. That's so cool.
She is like such a natural. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, anytime I go to give her a hug, she puts me in an arm bar, and I'm like, oh my God, you are so natural at this. But and that's something I really want to foster in her. She's in gymnastics. I was a gymnast for 13 years, but I love jiu-jitsu because it has nothing to do with what your body looks like. It's just what your body can do and how you can protect yourself. And I think it's such a powerful thing for her to learn. And my husband's just obsessed with it. And it's been really cool for her to be around.
Cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like he's got a good dose of like testosterone and his like guy stuff. And
we joke actually, like, no, I'm like so much higher in testosterone than he is. Like, he is so sensitive and just like he's so even tempered and like calm. And we make jokes all the time. Like, he needs my testosterone and I need, I doubt he has estrogen, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
A little bit more of the sensitivity chip, I guess.
Well, yeah, I think like, us women, we can be like kind of tough.
Well, you kind of, I mean, I don't think you have to be, but I'm intrinsically that way. And my daughter's very much that way. And, so yeah, he's gotten a little bit tougher because he's had to be.
Yeah. Poor guys. We beat them up a lot.
Yeah, right. Yes, we do.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So, Rea, thank you so much. This has been really great. I mean, I love it. I love what we covered. This is so awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you're doing this. It's going to make a really big difference for people. And it's just so nice to hear, familiar like feelings and emotions and topics and that everybody can relate to.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think that like just your story and just like being open and sharing and really just being authentic about it. It's refreshing. It's nice. There's this element of, like it just makes people think, like you just can breathe and exhale about it. And you hear,
everybody should be proud of their paths and how they got there. And I mean, we're all different. I think it's easy to, judge yourself if you're not like up to par with, certain mothers who seem to have it all together, but like no one really has it all together. No. And that's the beauty of it. Like that's the chaotic mess is motherhood. And that's the best part. I think it's the part where we can all relate to and like learn from. So
I'd love to have you back. I'd love
oh my
to.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. It'd be great.
We could talk about Trump.
Oh God, like that's a whole different podcast. My husband calls him the Human Turkey Vagina. I don't know why. Thinks that he looks like a turkey vagina. I'm like, have you seen a lot of turkey vaginas? I don't know, but yeah, God, it's crazy.
Thanks again for listening. I really hope you enjoyed my conversation with Rea. Be sure to subscribe and post a review. I'm always open to suggestions. Also, if you're interested in being on this podcast to share your story about your journey as a mother, or if you chose not to become a mother, I'd love to hear it. Check out my website, yourdoinggreatmom.com. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.